I would consider leaving your first job once you get a pretty firm idea that no one's advocating for you to move up in the company, or it does not look like that you're going to get raises at all. Like if you've plateaued and you're pretty certain that's your plateau in that company, like get out.
Welcome, AJ. Thank you so much for talking with me today. So,
Yeah.
these interviews, I'm trying to share with students success stories of students of mine that have gotten really cool jobs in different industries that are only 5 to 8 years out from graduation. And that's you. You graduated in 2017
Indeed.
and landed what sounds like a pretty sweet job in the operations and finance side of a medical device company. So, first, can you just tell us a little bit about like what your job looks like, sort of the day to day?
Yeah. So it's a pretty tight ship at this place. The department is literally I'm the main full-timer in there, and then there's a controller, and she's only like part-time, and then I'm in the process of training another person to be in our department, but she's a VA, so a virtual assistant from Guatemala. I mean, she's great, she's amazing, but there are some limitations with her being in Guatemala, not in, the US. But day to day, literally, I'll go like in a nutshell, and then I'll explain it more later if you want to know more. But anything that money touches, basically, I'm involved in. So like it's not just AR, AP, it's also like collections, and then like our projects last like weeks, months, years. So I have to know all the financials for all these projects. So in case like PM or sales folks want to talk to me about them, I can advise them on the correct information.
Can you tell us, Rebecca, you've said a couple of acronyms, so AR, AP,
Oh
P.
yeah, accounts receivable, accounts payable. I mean, I also do vendor customer relations. I manage the credit card program. I do the bookkeeping. I do
Wow.
reconciliation, and I help with the month end close. Literally, the only thing that I don't do involving money is like payroll and like tax filing sort of stuff, which is what the controller does.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So, what size of company? It sounds like you do have a lot of hats.
Yeah, it's like I said, tight ship. Everybody has a lot of hats. We're like less than 25 employees.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like with medium-sized companies like that, smaller, medium, your jobs tend to be, you have to be more of a generalist, right? You have to do
Oh
multiple
yeah.
roles.
Oh,
How do you like that? Would you prefer being like a specialist in a bigger firm, or do you like the broader skill set you get to use?
at the moment, I like it because I get to learn a lot. But later down the road, I would prefer having a more specialized, department. Because I know like bigger companies, you have one person just working the AR, accounts receivable, or like one person just working the accounts payable. I'm doing both, plus everything else I mentioned. So it does get a little stressful, but at the same time, it's good to learn all these things, and get paid for it. So
Right. Yeah, for
yeah,
sure. Like a lot of college students, they have what they might call like a college job, or they're, doing food service or something, and they're wondering
yeah,
how they transition into the career type of a job. Did
yeah,
you have like a college job, and then was there an internship, or was there a
yeah.
entry level thing, or how did you sort of stair step your way to this company?
Yeah, I was, so during college, I was blessed enough not to have to work during college. So after I graduated, I did like bookkeeping for this small restaurant in San Diego. And then I also did that undergrad research program with you with the Kauffman Foundation. So I count that as work experience,
Oh,
really. But
mhm.
like in terms of like an official job, I don't even count that bookkeeping one as an official one because that was under the table.
Okay.
So official, it's the same company that I work for right now, but I was hired as a data analyst.
Okay.
And I believe like how I got there was they saw my research with you, and then honestly, I did a lot of research in college, all my papers and all my grades and everything. They like asked, "Hey, can we see something?" So
Okay.
they knew that I was detail oriented, all those buzzwords that I was on point with the data, and then they hired me as a data analyst at first.
Okay.
Yeah,
So that was sort of their entry level role, or what have you.
absolutely.
And so having was there a particular software that was useful, or I mean, so definitely you mentioned the research internship looked good.
Yeah. I
Keeping.
mean, the main thing they liked was Excel, but I also did the Deuce with you, which they liked as well, even though they didn't use it, just
Right.
to see that there was some, what's the word for it?
Research
Variety of what I knew.
software. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. How long have you been with this firm?
I've been, I started, I think it was late 2018,
Okay. Oh, like so.
either late 2015 or yeah. So I've been with this company since the beginning of
Okay.
like graduating.
And how many different roles have you had in that time?
Three. So I got hired as a data analyst. I liked it a lot, but I realized, after a year or so doing that, you start to realize I'm probably not going to get paid a lot doing this, even if maybe you get a promotion or you get another, what's it called, title or something, or even if you get a small increase, I'm not going to get paid enough as a data analyst. So I asked about other opportunities, and they liked me there a lot. So they said, "You want to try out sales?" And me being totally green, like fresh out of college, I was open to try anything. So I tried out sales, absolutely hated it. It was one of the worst things I've ever tried. I mean, it's such a negative environment, not only internally with the coworkers competition, but like externally, people that don't like talking to you, even if it's like medical device industry or whatever industry. I've heard that if you're in sales, I mean, you got to have a particular personality for it. And I don't have that. I can't deal with the negativity day in, day out, 8 hours a day on the phone, talking to all those angry people. I mean, I
Hmm.
hated it. So I tried that for like I think it was less than a year because I told them, hey, I really don't like this and I'm not thriving. Obviously, you guys don't see me making the sales. And there was no, there were no other open positions at that time. So they said, just, basically deal with it. So I dealt with it for as long as I could. And then something happened to where somebody in finance, I forgot exactly what happened, but she had to leave. And they said, hey, do you want to try out finance? And I was all for it. And then ever since then, I mean, that's where I grew. I excelled in there. I loved it. People liked me in that position better than sales. So I mean, it
Yeah.
just worked out for everybody, for me and the whole company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting that kind of journey because there's in sort of the like career advice, there are these different camps, and one is like you need to know your passion first and then pursue it, and then sort of this other view, which I tend to subscribe to a little bit more, but it's that like you can find passion, you find it along the way, and I guess have to be open to things. You pay attention to what your interests are, what your skills are. I mean, did you have what's your take on that?
I mean, the first one does exist, like thinking you have a passion and then following that, and then it ends up being what you like the self-fulfilling prophecy. If that's what you believe your passion is, that's what it's going to be. But I resonate more with that second one where passion is something you find, because like I said, a sociology major, you don't think that you're going to be working in finance. You don't even think that you're going to enjoy it. But I mean, as I started this position, as I learned more, as I took on more roles in finance, I mean, I love it. I love working with the money. Every single thing I do is significant to me. Like that's how I feel. And like people say the same thing to me, it's like it's directly affecting the bottom line. So
Right.
I mean, to me, it's a lot of responsibility, but in a way, it's like you feel like you have a lot of authority, and it feels good. It's
Yeah.
so it's
You're
yeah.
making contribution to the company in a real substantive way.
Hmm.
Great. So you've been there a while, and you didn't necessarily love the middle job. Some students aren't sure, like, how long should I stay at my first jobs? There was one study on pay that students that had actually switched companies a couple times had slightly higher. I think because they start to get like stuck in a certain spot or seen as a somebody that is almost like pigeonholed into that role, and you have to like apply to somewhere else to kind of break out of that. But it
Yeah.
sounds like you were pretty successful climbing within the same environment. What's your take on like when to stay and when to go?
In general, you're right, and I've seen those studies where hopping jobs, that's where you get the higher pay. That's the I wouldn't say easier way, but that's the most surefire way to get a higher pay. I honestly, Professor Davis, I think I just got lucky. I mean, the, my coworkers love me, so in data, just the fact that they offered me a sales position with a sociology major coming from data, I mean, so that right there was a pay bump. And then when I moved to finance, that was a pay bump. And then it plateaued for a little bit, so I thought about leaving, right? Because you're plateauing on the pay. But we hired another controller, which is the current controller right now. And out of all the upper management, out of all the direct supervisors I've had, she has taught me the most, and she's been the most um, vocal in advocating for me to move up in the company. So like I said, I just got lucky, so she's the one, she's making sure that I still get raises. So to me, I don't see a need to hop jobs because if it's still going to happen, I'll take it. It's certain. So
Well, and it
but
sounds like
go ahead.
even though you didn't leave the company, you've moved roles and in very different departments.
Yeah,
And then you also kind of highlight the importance that a good manager can make. Like those relationships at work are so, uh, I mean, the literature even shows like they're just really powerful in somebody's happiness with their work. Like
yeah,
the Gallup organization does these work engagement surveys, and one of them's like, "Do you have a best friend at work? And do you feel like your manager cares about you?" Um, and I guess you really seen that, but also that I find it interesting that you really disliked the sales, but you chose to stick it out for a while, right?
yeah.
Like, how long were you like not liking it but staying when you weren't even sure there would be? And something opened up. So I mean, there's something in there about perseverance, I think. But
That's the
I
great. I stuck it out for it. It had to have been less than a year, but it was more than like half a year where I
okay,
stayed in the position because I still wanted to learn. It was
okay.
still an opportunity. I didn't like it, but it's like I said, a associate major. I mean, when am I going to get the opportunity to learn something like this? So I just stuck it out. You know?
Oh, excellent. That's a great perspective. So you by framing it as like a learning opportunity, a professional development opportunity, it
Yeah,
sort of gave you the ability to stick with it for a while longer, and then
lovely.
something opened up.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Also, Professor Davis, let me backtrack a little bit to that question regarding when people should or how long people should stay at their first job.
Okay.
I don't think I accurately answered it. I would say that I would consider leaving your first job once you get a pretty firm idea that no one's advocating for you to move up in the company, or it does not look like that you're going to get raises at all. Like if you've plateaued and you're pretty certain that's your plateau in that company, like get out.
Okay.
Yeah.
And plateau, are you excited to see raises, but also,
Pay and title and learning. I think learning's the big one. Yeah.
yeah, as a sort of a blend. Okay. Were there any, so in the transition from college to career, are there any particular skills that were helpful to you or that you would recommend for other students, like build this ability in today's job market, or if you're this kind of personality, or I don't know, anything really?
Yeah. Good question. Coming from somebody who didn't take professional networking so seriously, I would say people should focus on that because
Okay.
I've had people like or friends that they did way worse grade-wise in college, but their jobs are like just as good. They get paid just as much, if not more, because of their networking. So it really like who you know really will positively impact the type of job you get where you are in life.
Yeah.
And
I think for some students, they hear that. It's like, oh, it's who you know, not what you know, and network.
yeah,
And I think some of them are like, well, does that just mean like I go to a career fair or make a LinkedIn profile? Like,
yeah.
so what, at least for you, what has networking looked like at maybe different stages of your career? Early, and then maybe, I assume now a lot of it's just in your day-to-day role. It's just keeping up good professional relationships. But we can make the idea of networking a little less ambiguous for a student. How would you?
Yeah. I guess getting in touch with people in your major if you want something that's, related to your major, get in touch with them. Like I said, my social network was pretty lagging back then, like professionally speaking, so I can't give the best advice, but I would just get to know people and like connect with them officially on like LinkedIn and talk to them about their goals, see what they're trying to do, get ideas of careers from other people. Also connect with the professors who you believe have taught you a lot. Like I'm glad I got in contact with you and Professor Langford. So I
Yeah.
think even though you didn't directly get me a job, like the information and mentoring I've learned from you two have helped me a lot get to where I am. Yeah.
But it's always very satisfying seeing students do well too, especially. So that's great. Um, okay, so so peers, sure, other alumni, faculty. Did mention LinkedIn, which is pretty helpful.
Yeah.
And then now, what does that look like? I mean, are you mainly just networking in your own company, or is there like an industry kind of network that you are a part of?
It's mainly just in the company. I mean, like I said, it's tight ship, but people that are in the medical device industry, they almost all know each other. It's so tight. Like even the different companies that do similar to what we do, they all know each other. So people know me, even though it's just a small finance department, because I handle all the money. So it's like, oh, they know AJ's the guy that to talk to about the money. So and then like I know everybody in those companies because I know, oh, this is the guy to talk to about sales, or this is their money guy. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it is just within the industry. Um, Medical device industry, it's pretty specific. So I'm hoping I don't pigeonhole myself and just screw myself in the future with trying to find a different job opportunity. But for right now, it's going well. I'm happy with it.
Yeah. Well, and here in San Diego, there's a lot of, I think, medical device sort of cluster here, which makes a difference the city you're in for different industries. But you bring up something interesting, and that is in a job, you sometimes are in like a functional role. So, like you were in sales, now you're in like finance and operations. But then there's the industry, so medical device, but it could be something else. A lot of other industries would still have sales or finance and operations. Do you tend to identify more with the industry or more with like the role?
Oh, good question. I would say the role, if I had to choose for future opportunities,
Yeah,
I
say
would
this company is shut
I,
down for some horrible reason. Would you
yeah,
be looking for medical device or finance jobs, even if it was different?
yeah. I would do finance job even if it's different, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, it's more opportunity for me to learn, and like learning can't get enough of that. I
Yeah.
mean, it's always growing, you know.
Yeah, there's a pretty popular book in career, like getting a job, called "What Color Is Your Parachute?" And they talk about when you want to switch roles and industries, you can usually only do one at a time. So
Hmm.
you could switch from finance and medical device to finance and like hospitality or something,
Yeah.
and then from there switch to like a different role in hospitality. But you probably can't go from finance and medical sales to some other kind of role, and like that you double switching both the industry and the role at the same time is
It's
really
difficult. Yeah, that sounds really difficult. Yeah.
cool. Have there been some like moments of either like success or challenges? I'm kind of curious, and moments where you're like, oh, I felt really proud of I did here, and or some really difficult times,
Yeah, I mean,
professionally.
I guess let's do the negatives first. When I was in data and then I switched to sales, I mean, people were just bagging on me so much. Like I couldn't sell anything. I just didn't do well with that type of context, you know. So that was a pretty tough time. But when I started in finance and then I grew in that, I mean, I get so much praise from it. Everybody internally, I mean, they give me so much praise. Even the CEO, like he keeps telling me how so much has changed since I was in sales and the finance. It's like a night and day difference. So just the verbal positive feedback you get, that really helps, you know.
Mm. Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Would you say there's sort of this perspective that growth mindset, you can learn any skill, in sales for example it's rough but anyone could do it if the but versus sort of the view of like, hey, we have different personalities and naturally we're going to fit in different things better, and if you find the fit
Yeah.
that's better for you, you'll just do better. uh what's your take on sort of that, like just a skill thing versus it's a finding the fit for who you are kind of?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I mean, there's some truth in both. Okay, so if you really want to put your mind to it, anybody can do sales. But if it's gonna negatively affect you mentally every single day, I mean, you're probably not cut out for that. You know,
Okay.
so
Yeah.
you probably have a better fit somewhere else.
Right.
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 Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. And so like as a sociology major, and that's really it's a broad field, right? So some majors, like if you're nursing or
Exactly.
social work, you kind of already know your career path. uh,
Right.
you had that degree, and how was like getting the initial, like you had kind of you said mentioned a bookkeeping thing or what have you that was under the table, but then were you applying to a bunch of places? How was the actual like job search, interviewing, the kind of the nuts and bolts of breaking into that career job?
Yeah, you know, I was pretty choosy because so my family, my folks, the advice they were giving me was, you know, as your first job, take any job you can get, you know, take the
Okay.
first person that hands you the offer. But I really did not want to do that because a big thing for me was commute. Like I really did not want to have a longer than like 35-minute commute. Because then when traffic hits, that's like an hour. And I just kept thinking to myself, man, an hour there and back every single day, 5 days a week. It's like you know, some people they have no problem with commuting, but for me, I hate it, man. I hate dealing with people on the road. So I was pretty picky and choosy, finding the companies that were like close to me,
Okay.
and then so that already narrows down the pool a lot, right? That like narrows things down a lot. So then that's what I did. Anything having to do with data or research, or it wasn't even specifically sociology, you know, like anything that really interested me
Hmm.
and only required a 4-year degree and it wasn't vocational, it's like I shot my shot at it. Yeah.
And how are you finding these? Like Indeed or
Yeah.
Monster
Indeed, Glassdoor. I think the best one was
or
Indeed. Yeah.
Store? Okay. Oh, sorry, what was the last one you said?
Just Indeed and Glassdoor.
Oh,
That's
okay.
it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And those are pretty effective. I mean, I've heard horror stories of people who are like, sent 100 applications to online postings and never hear back on anything.
Mhm.
Um, so, like, what were your metrics, I guess? How many do you think you sent off? Did you hear back from many?
When you heard that, is that more recently, or is that like
That's
back?
more recent. And
Yeah,
I think part of it is that it's easier to apply for jobs online, and so more people are applying for every position, and
yeah.
so companies don't reply to everyone as often anymore. And so, I mean, certainly, I think a lot of folks may not have resumes that are a good fit for the company, but
Mhm.
I don't know, any tips on just getting through that initial kind of, how do you get to the interview? How do you get through the interview?
Yeah. Well, let me start out by saying, so back then I only sent out maybe less than 15, less than 15 applications. And then
Right. Yeah.
I got lucky with this one. And to get picked, really, like you got to do some people say you got to do the keywords, whatever's in the job description, put a lot of those buzzwords in your resume because
Okay.
it's all like automated, the automated
Yeah.
system is picking out
And did you
the
do that? Is that what you're?
I did do that, yeah. So I picked a lot of their buzzwords, put it in my resume, put it in my cover letter, and then it worked enough times to where I mean I got a reply maybe it was at least what is it like 33% of the people replied back to me saying, "Hey, you want to interview?"
Okay. Oh, great.
But then I want to say those numbers you were talking about, like 100 job applications or something, I'm hearing that a lot more recently. So I can what's it called? Confirm that I've been hearing that with other people, especially the people who have just now graduated. I mean, one of my coworkers, her daughter sent out 160 applications, like literally, and she has not been able to land a job. And she's marketing, so it's like, it's a pretty broad degree. You should be able to land a marketing job. 160 applications. It's just, I think that the market right now is just insane, Professor Davis. It's just,
Yeah, I mean, there's that for sure. I think that the market makes a difference, and that will vary, when we're coming out of the recession, or if it was a good COVID year, like, and that's when you graduated, like that's challenging.
yeah,
But I think there are some strategies to help improve odds, and I think you mentioned like a really key one, like finding keywords in the job description, putting them in your resume, so that the ATS, or automated tracking uh, software, recognizes that you're this match with a kind of an algorithm. It
yeah,
flags it. And so then you get seen by a hiring manager, or the resume gets seen. And so I think, it wasn't that many years ago where it was like a two-step process, like an HR person sees it and then a hiring manager, and maybe it moves to an interview. Now there's like this computer layer at a
yeah,
lot of companies.
yeah.
But it seems like you navigated that pretty well, only I don't know how often they were using those, in 2018,
I
17.
know. Yeah. That
But
was the advice I was given by like one of my family members, and it worked. So I'm sure it still works today. It's probably even better today because it's so much automated. Uh,
right, probably
res-
more. Great. And then did you get an interview? Did you prepare for the interview, or how did you prepare for the interview?
I did prepare for the interview. Yeah, I looked up some like general interview questions, and then I did a mock trial with like one of my friends, and
Okay. You just
it
had them
helped.
ask you the questions and
Yeah, especially if you're not the best with like public speaking, you got to get an idea because going into your first job, I mean, you have no idea what they're going to ask. So you have to at least prepare. What's the saying? Like, failing to prepare is preparing to fail,
right.
right? I've always lived by that after college. So, I mean, do your research. Like, look at some of the questions in general that you're going to be asked. Prepare an answer, so at least you have an idea of what you're going to tell them.
And
And
did
it's
you ask them any questions in the interview?
I did, yeah. You got to prepare some of your questions too, and I would say, ask a good amount of questions because if that's somewhere you're going to want to work, then you want to know for a fact that it's going to be a pleasing environment to work at.
Yeah. I I,
Yeah.
I think that's a really great mindset too, because the advice says like make sure you have a couple of questions to ask them, because normally they'll say, "Oh, do you have any questions for us?" If you're like, "Nope," then that doesn't come off real great. But I think some people are like, okay, well, what are the two or three smart questions I just need to ask? Versus like thinking of yourself as someone who like, hey, I'm going to have options. I'm interviewing them
Yeah, there you go.
much as they're interviewing me.
Yeah,
And I almost think that that comes off as maybe well, it might put you at ease a bit. It might give you more a sense of confidence. Obviously, you don't want to come off arrogant, but there are other options, right? It's not like I think it's hard to you even touched on this, but like when it's your very first job out of college, that's like kind of professional. It's very easy to want to just jump at the first possibility.
yeah,
But taking that step back, doing your research, like you said, interviewing them. Um, I mean, you're going to spend a lot of time there if you get hired, right?
exactly. As your first job, you're gonna want to learn and everything, not make it a waste. I mean, if you don't like it, like I said, you can leave, but And you have to go through the whole interview process,
back in the process.
interview
Yeah. And you
assessment.
don't want too many short stints on your resume in the beginning.
Exactly. Yeah.
If you move around every year or two in the beginning, I think that looks okay. But if it's every few months, that'll be a red flag. Well, thank you so much. You've shared a lot. I do want to get just a sense of like any final advice or tips or for those who are, about to graduate and they're about to face this job hunt, and it could
I
be
think,
mindsets or practical strategies.
especially with how difficult the job market is right now, I think people have to be open-minded in the careers that at least the first job out of college for
Okay.
the first position that they take. Like um how do I say this? Like I guess just be open-minded. I mean, you don't have to settle for a really low-paying job, but if literally if you can't land anything else, maybe that's something that you got to take and then from there grow on because getting a steady paycheck is better than no money. Slow money is better than no money. That's what it,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, well, and it's experience. You put it on the resume, and
Yeah, exactly.
it can stair step to something else.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that's good. I think a lot of folks maybe they're hoping for that dream job out of school, and
Yeah.
dream job may be sort of after you break through the entry level.
Hmm.
Uh,
And like by all means, I hope that all the newer grads do find their dream job after college. That'd be the ideal goal, that'd be awesome. But if the market is destroying you, I mean, you gotta balance things out and figure out a different plan if you really cannot find that perfect dream job, you gotta make it work. Yeah.
yeah, there's a line of research called job crafting, where it's like you don't always have to leave a job to find a better one. Sometimes you can change your current job into a better fit for you, whether
Mhm.
that's if the tasks are editable. But often they also talk about the cognitive crafting, like you can change how you think about it. And I've heard you mention that in this interview. It's like
Yeah.
by viewing even difficult situations as like learning opportunities or skill development.
Yeah.
So if you don't land that dream job as your first one, if you can find maybe a way and I don't just mean this as like lie to yourself, but if there's actually a way that you can make it like a development or skill building season
Absolutely.
or opportunity or something,
Yeah.
or at least I think that's what I'm hearing from
Yeah,
you.
that's correct. Life is all about adapting, all about growing. If you're growing moving forward, that's a positive, But if you're stuck in this job market because you cannot find that perfect job, I mean, you're just stuck, you're not moving forward. So you might as well get something going.
And do you think about, so you're mentioning the money, like slow money is better than no money, and if you're getting crushed by the market, any tips to students on like debt adverse, a lot of them have student loans, the
Right.
cost of schools have gone up.
Right.
Any just advice on personal finance as I see you're a finance guy for a company. I don't know. You have personal finance tips, but for like a college student,
Or like, are we talking specifically about loans or just in general?
yeah, loans, but even mindsets towards money and pay or you know,
Uh, I mean, as soon as possible, just start putting something in your IRA or Roth IRA. Just as
retirement.
soon as possible, start putting it in the retirement. I mean, people say the stock market only goes up, right? I mean, to a degree, that's correct. Yeah, we're going to have lows. Yeah, there's going to be periods of down, but for the most part, all the stats, I mean, that money will increase. So the time in the market beats timing the market. So the more you have right now, just start putting it in as soon as possible.
I like that time in the
First
market.
paycheck, put some money into retirement.
Was that you said time in the market beats timing the market?
Yeah,
You mean
because
compound interest versus trying to buy and
yeah,
sell individual stocks and
yeah, you can what's it called? People can dollar cost average, so they put a certain amount every single month, right? Every single paycheck. But um, if you dig deeper into the research, you can lump sum typically outperforms dollar cost average. And lump sum is if you have a certain amount of money. Sorry, this is going into just
hey, that's fine.
yeah. If you have a good amount of money you can invest, just drop it all and don't average it out every month. Just drop it all as soon as possible because time in the market, beats time in
Oh,
the
I
market.
see. So if you already have that, so not don't save up to a lump sum before you enter. You're saying
Correct.
whatever you have that you
You
can.
already if you already have money to invest that, yeah,
Okay,
put it in.
and it just tips on avoiding consumer debt, credit card, car loans, like.
Yeah, there's a lot I could say about that, honestly, Dr. Davis. Um,
I just see some people get stuck in not only do they have student loans, but then they get like in a cycle of debt. They're not only not investing in their future, but it just looks so stressful.
yeah. Well, I guess let's do credit cards since that's probably a lot of newer grads are into credit cards, right? You have to treat a credit card like treat it like a checking account, like if you don't have the money to pay it off, then don't charge it on the credit card. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
you're even though you can carry the balance, that's not the purpose of the credit card. You're not using it correctly if you're gonna do that.
Mm.
You
Okay.
know,
What would the correct use of a credit card be?
it's I view a credit card the same thing as a debit card, except it has benefits. You know what I mean? Like all the points, all the travel and stuff. But if I don't have the money right already to pay that off, then I'm not gonna charge anything. You know what I mean? So as soon as you swipe that card, just think of that's money already out of your account. Don't carry the balance, don't accrue the interest because the interest on credit cards, oh my goodness, it's so much.
18, 20% just
It's some of
instant.
the worst interest rates ever. So people who are new grads never carry balance on interest credit cards. Some of the worst interest ever. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. 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 No, thank you. I didn't tell you in advance we'd be talking about that, but you're in finance
No
and
problem.
the
I'd love
students
to talk about
struggle
it.
with that. So
I wish I had more input on the loans though, because to me, I mean, I'm just, I had loans too in college, but I'm just paying it off steady, just
yep.
steady, yeah. But when I got the loan, the interest rate on that loan was a lot lower than they are right now.
Okay.
So I got lucky. So I don't mind letting it ride because if sorry, this is blabbering
Oh, this
again.
is actually interesting. So you're saying if you had a higher interest rate, you'd try to pay it off faster, but because you have a lower interest rate, you'll pay it
I
off at a slower pace so that you can invest or do other things.
Exactly. So let's say I forgot exactly what my interest rate was, but let's say it's like 2 or 3%, right? If I
Mm,
got if there's a high yield savings account making 5% plus, I'd rather keep the money in there than pay off the loan early because I'm making 5% at the high yield savings account, but
right.
the
So even though
loan's only
you're
two or
losing
three.
the 2 or 3% on the loan, you're making a couple percent more in the yield on the
Yeah, you
this.
come out ahead.
Yeah.
You come out ahead.
Well, and I think that's interesting because I think some folks might think you have to do one thing at a time. Like I got to pay off my loan, then I got to build an emergency savings, then someday I can worry about retirement or investing.
Yeah.
I think you're saying like look at the percentage rates, and you can kind of do multiple things at once. It's slower, but if the math makes sense,
But I think that's also that depends where you are financially because I mean, I, there's so many philosophies about money, but typically the stages of what you want to do first is get a savings account. Sorry, get a savings to where you have like a safety net savings, and then do your IRA, whether it's Roth or regular, and then your 401k, and then after that you can do brokerage. But before all that, you got to make sure that you're paying at least your minimum on your student loan, not the
um,
minimum, like the
or
amount you got to pay
right,
each
every
period.
month.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
I don't mean for this to become too financial, but just to define a few
Oh,
terms. So the IRA is the individual retirement account that people can
yeah,
save in on their own. The
yeah.
401k is like a company provided retirement. And,
Correct,
and
correct.
the benefit of some of those is that the company will sometimes match part of your contribution to it.
Yes, absolutely correct. And hopefully, to all the newer grads, if you get in a company that they do have 401k match, that's pretty important. Hopefully, they have 401k at all. I mean,
Right.
a lot of private companies in the sector they don't have 401k, so
Yeah.
that'd
Moving
be
towards putting
choosy.
it on
That
the
was
end.
that was also something that I was picky and choosy about. I wanted a company that had a 401k, whether it's public or private sector. I mean,
Yeah.
pretty important.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Gosh, well, I could keep asking more questions, but I want to be sensitive to your time. Thank you very much. I totally appreciate you
Thank you
sharing.
for the opportunity, and best of luck to all the newer grads. Hopefully, something I said was insightful or helpful.
I think it certainly will.